Welcome to the Steve and Cimino Says Boom Show issue number 52. And Steve, what do we got to tell them? What do we got to give them?
Bomb!
Hey everyone, welcome to Pop XP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the Pop XP channel.
Steve and Cimino Says Boom Show is in the hizzy for issue number 52. Niall,
Man.
what do we got to do? I still don't have a clue.
Well, I think that bell just rang. So I think class is going to be in session tonight. But everyone, you know the house rules. Look below, click that subscribe button, and smash that bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload new content like this episode here. And gentlemen, I got my notepad ready. I'm ready to dive into the weeds with Mr. Steve, Professor Houston tonight.
Wow, that's right. Steve has got some issues that he wants us. He's going to enlighten us with, teach us with. Steve, what are we talking about today? What's going on? What do I got to learn?
All right. We're going to be delving into one of my favorite titles of the entire 1970s again. Forgive me if you are not a Defenders fan, but believe you me, over the next couple of years, we are going to be seeing Defenders after Defenders after Defenders after Defenders. It just has to be that way. And these two issues in particular are very special for me because they feature so many guest stars. And in fact, this is the most characters to appear in a single book for years. This just has so many characters from all over the Marvel Universe. It would take years for a book to come along which actually features more characters. It really is. Believe you me, I counted them. Again, we're with the Defenders beginning at issue 62. We're following on, of course, from the great work. Steve Englehart got the series going. Len Wein popped in there for a couple of issues. And then the great Steve Gerber had a great long run. However, many people forget this issue is written by a man called David Anthony Kraft. And David was Gerberish in many ways. It's just amazing. Yes, the late, great David Kraft. It's one of the very saddest things that, he was very out there on social media. And believe you me, he passed away, unfortunately, a few short years ago. In any other world, he would be here right now, and we would be celebrating, and he would be laughing, and we would be getting the weeds from, the original himself. But even though he's not here, we are going to celebrate his work, starting off with Defenders 62.
Now,
First things first, please.
Wait, Steve, let me just pause you for 1 second before you get into the weeds. I have a little thing to talk to you about this issue. This is the first time my brother had in his room, because he was a little older than me. He had this shelf, it's metal shelf, and on that shelf he had stacks and stacks of comics. Just whatever was there. I don't know, because he got into the comics a little before me. But I'll never forget this issue, because this issue was on the stacks. And I want to just say, when you look down below between Nighthawk's legs there, you see the Hulk versus Hercules. When I saw that, I know who Hercules was, and of course I knew who the Hulk was, and I was like, oh, they fight? I was so enthralled by that, just that image down there. And the thing is, I never got a chance to read the second part till years and years later. So I never got the whole gist of it. So this is fun that you're going to talk about this, but this was singed in my brain. This cover is singed in my head. So go ahead, Steve. I'm sorry. I just had to tell you.
Yeah. Now, this is such a rare issue because it features 3 of my cosmic gods in the same story. One, as you can see, we have Richard Rider's Nova. Okay. We have Marvel Man and Jack of Hearts. Now, you want to add to the party, we have Captain Marvel as well. It is incredible. Incredible. That was the first thing that I saw. And by the way, this issue didn't exist in England. I could not find it anywhere. Obviously, you Americans had 6,000 copies each. But, it wasn't there. So when I finally got hold of this issue, I bought 10 copies for myself. Yes, that's called Comic Madness, by the way. And by the way, the actual storyline, and I should note that the actual full story goes from issue 62 to issue 65. We're only going to do 62 and 63 today because we could be here for days, okay? We may better come back to issue 64 and 65 at a later period. But first things first, look at that beautiful cover. And as you can see, Nighthawk is sort of screaming in anger, and this issue is going to explain why. Why is Nighthawk so upset? All right. So basically, we start off there. We are at Nighthawk's, or the Defender's base. Basically, it's like a little area where they have stables and that. Because of Nighthawk is also very wealthy. So they're like, oh, okay, we've got a little bit of time off. And they're just having a little game. They want to have a little game of Frisbee. Now, I know John probably likes this little scene as well. It's best not to play. It's best not to play Frisbee with the Hulk. I mean, remember Valkyrie? She is an amazingly strong Asgardian. Okay, and even she, I mean, anyone else, their stomach would have the ribs would have just been smashed to bits. So they're having a little game right there. And, of course, we have Hellcat here. And Hellcat is, at this time, you can tell by her speech there, she says, gee whiz, Hulky, you really went overboard with that oomph department. So Hellcat is this happy-go-lucky, she's a girl that's just sort of new to the superhero game. She's very naive, very curious. The real hard life of superheroics hasn't hit her yet. You'll have to get up to like the issue 90s where she actually gets married to the son of Satan. That's another story. Okay, next page. All right, let us introduce you to that first panel. That there is a guy called Dollar Bill. And he is one of the most annoying characters that's ever been created. And he's basically like a TV, producer type person that Hollywood okay, and he has somehow latched onto the Defenders. And in his eyes, okay, and in no one else's eyes, especially not Nighthawk's, in his eyes, he wants to make the Defenders just as famous as the Avengers or the Fantastic Four. And he's put it up to himself, okay, to basically take that mission on. And of course, Nighthawk just wants to keep the team a secret, okay, quiet, not official thing, so there's no government interference like the Avengers are having sort of at this sort of period of time. So basically, next page. This is where they find out that Dollar Bill has made a documentary. And this basically covers issues 57, 58, 59, and 60. Okay. It's a very complicated story, and if I was to get into that story now, we would actually be here for 3 days. David Kraft really knew how to weave a very complex, almost Roy Thomas-y type story, just thousands of things going on. But the thing is that, this secret team of Defenders are now watching themselves on TV in a documentary. Next page. So they have these weird little, as you can see, it hasn't been filmed very well. And it has lots of dialogue going on here, but it's explaining what the team is doing. In the bottom left-hand panel, some of you may be wondering, what is that? Is that Lobo? I thought he was DC. That's not Lobo, okay? That's a guy called Lunatic. And that is one of the most complex stories in Marvel history. It is. I'm not even going to scratch the surface of Lunatic here because we haven't got days. At some point, we're going to get into that. We really need to like scratch that surface. But basically, Lunatic is a character that basically had the Defenders number. The Defenders could never beat this guy. He would pop up and he would use like a metal pole and he would just bash people around. Okay, next page. So basically, the thing is that you can see on the top panel, the characters are like, oh wow, look, in the documentary they're able to answer certain questions and go, okay, so that's what's going on right here. And then it says, and this is when the things get into trouble. Dollar Bill asks everyone basically to become a defender. Okay, it says there, don't delay, join today, beat the rush, and be the first on your block to become a member of the Boffo group that saved the world, the Dynamic Defenders. Oh my word. Now this is going out live on American TV. So right now, poor Nighthawk. Next page. As you can see, he is furious. And for the first time, Dollar Bill's a little scared of that. Dollar Bill's Defenders? Since when? Cinema freak? Since you self-appointed yourself our press agent? Your asinine documentary just made us a laughing stock to the whole world, you chucklehead. Now, being English, I never quite understood what chucklehead was when I was a kid. I was like, oh, okay, chucklehead, okay. Well, we'll go with that. You know, now, obviously, right now, Hellcat and Valkyrie are basically like, well, you know, so what? It's not too bad, you know. And Hulk's like, oh, doesn't really quite understand. But as you can see... Take a look at the frustration on Nighthawk's face right there. He says, now everybody want to be a defender. Don't you see? Don't you see what Dollar Bill's done? Next page. Now, again, I'm not going to get into this, but that's Sergei the Presence, okay? And he's basically over in Russia and he's going over an area of land where he did an experiment years before and awakened a terrible creature. I'm not going to get into that right now because that's not part of this story. Next page. So, quite quickly, as you can see, the doorbell's ringing. And I just love this. As you can see, Nighthawk opens the door. And there you can see, look at those characters. So basically from the left-hand side, you have Miss Marvel. You have the Son of Satan. You have Polaris and Stingray. Jack of Hearts flying up there. Black Goliath. Iron Fist, Captain Marvel. Now, Captain Marvel, that's very rare. Captain Marvel didn't make any appearances anywhere, really, okay? So that's a special appearance, you know, in this issue, Captain Marvel. Then you have Hercules, and then standing together, Nova and Marvel Man, of course, you know, soon to be Quasar. That, when I saw that, I was just leaping through the air. My two favorites together, yes! Now... there's some people sitting on the roof, so let's take a look at the next page. So there's the Falcon, of course, and that's the Prowler. And they're both sitting on there, and Nighthawk's not taking this very well. And I just love the way he grabs the Falcon's foot like to just pull him off. And suddenly they're both flying. Look at that beautiful page there, because they're both off there flying, you know, and it says, so Falcon says, cool off. We're on the same team. The heck we are. I give the orders around here, and I order you to clear out. Now, this is something that David Kraft is trying to showcase here in his issues. He's trying to showcase that Nighthawk is having a tough time, you know, keeping this team together. He's financing the team. He's doing everything he can. But Nighthawk is not feeling that he's getting the respect that he deserves, okay? So he's being almost Cyclops-like, okay? For those of you who are X-Men fans. That's how he's being, okay? So he's already a little bit on edge, and suddenly he has to deal with all these brand new people. And it says, hey, man, I think you've got a serious attitude problem. And technically, he does have a little attitude problem right now. Next page. All right. Now this is where, this is the character of Hellcat right now. She goes, "Wow, I must have died and gone to hunk heaven. It's a dream come true. Which one do you want, Val?" And then, of course, the Hulk's like this. "Sword Girl want Hulk to smash funny dressed humans outside. No, Hulk, they mean well. They are our guests." So basically, the Hulk is, he's confused. He's not really doing anything. And more characters are showing up right now. So finally, in panel 5 right there, you see that's Torpedo. Technically, that's Torpedo 3. Okay, first 2 torpedoes died. That's from his appearance in Daredevil. And then you have Paladin and Captain Ultra. Captain Ultra had only made one previous appearance in the Fantastic Four 177 at this point. Okay. And when it comes to Paladin, his last appearance was in Daredevil 154. So David is using all these characters from coming all the way around and just, mixing them together. Now, the fact that we see Captain Ultra here is just literally hilarious. Now, also, Nova showcases his immaturity here. If you take a look at the last panel, okay, he says, "Look what I see, Marvel Man, horses." And then, Marvel Man's like, "Well, what about Nova? We've all seen horses before." "Well, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go play cowboy." Okay, now, Nova is still, he's in high school, young Richard Rider. This is so immature, okay, but it's hilarious, okay. This is going to drive Nighthawk literally insane. Okay, next page. So look, off they go. And by the way, I love that. Another character appears right there. And as you can see, that's the White Tiger. Okay, that's the first White Tiger right there. Fresh from his last appearance was in Spectacular Spider-Man. And of course, his first appearance is in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, for those of you who are keeping note. All right. So basically, they're like, "Well, what are we going to do here?" And, much to everyone, can you imagine, to Nighthawk's chagrin, they're like, "Well, we're going to have to come up with a leader." And they're going to nominate Hercules. Okay. Now, on the left-hand side of panel 2, there is a mysterious little character there. The first one you see with the orange, that's Tagak, Lord of Leopards. Okay. This, is one of his last appearances ever. That's from Daredevil 72, for those of you who are taking notice. And there, next to him, is Polaris and Havoc, which is like, what in the hell are they doing going off to try and join the Defenders? Okay. And their last appearance was like in Marvel Team Up, like issue 70-something. And then, of course, you've got Stingray. It's like, what, Stingray, what are you going to do? Stingray, you're not even by any water. What are you going to do? It's just ridiculous. And then, of course, there he is. He gets voted. In sooth, it would be unseemly for the son of Zeus to gainsay such duty, and thou is to be unsought. Thus it is done. Look at this, guys. It's huge right now. The Defenders shall have Hercules' humble service so long as it shall be needed. Next page.
I loved Hercules.
So as you can see, look at those poor horses. Okay. They can't ride the horses. And, even White Tiger's getting involved. And then finally, in that bottom panel, you can see Nighthawk has been unable to catch Falcon, which just goes to show you Falcon's, a pretty good flyer, because Nighthawk does have a jetpack under his, wings, And as you can see, he says, "Come back here and take your medicine like a man." He goes, "Go soak your head, superhero. Maybe that'll cool you off." So things aren't going too well right now. Next page. All right. So this is one of my favorite parts of the whole issue. Now, Valkyrie is not used to, social niceties. And basically, she tries to make some coffee. As you can see on the bottom left-hand panel, she's coming out with a tray, and she's going to give coffee to the various heroes. Okay. And you look, even the Hulk's coming out with a tray. Okay, so next panel. So look at that. It says, hey, what about cream and sugar? Drink it black. That's what he says to Paladin.
The Hulk said it was straight up. No more buts.
So let's have a look at a little look at this dialogue. It's just so brilliant. It goes, Holla, the customer of coffee breaks, seems all pervasive in America. The natives of this world deemed it indispensable at the observatory where I worked, and even the defenders enjoy it. And then, you know, the son of Satan's like, smells a bit strong. And then
the guy knows what the hell. Wait,
Stingray, this is the part that kills me the most. He goes, oh, this is Devil's Brew.
That's what I'm saying. Look at Son of Satan is saying that, and he's been to hell. Like, think about that.
He goes, no offense meant to you, son of Satan. Oh, and then Captain Marvel saying, not even Thanos could down this bitter beverage. This is David Kraft just being brilliant right now. I mean, Captain Marvel equating this coffee with Thanos, and, you know, son of Satan pouring this coffee away. You know, then now it's going to be Hercules' turn. Methinks I would have preferred mead, but the dusky aromatic drink of mortal value shall suffice. And then Valkyrie, you know, explains, it's my first attempt at making coffee. Indeed, it is fitting to propose a toast. I a toast. And then look at his face. So, and then even when Valkyrie's drinking, you can see she's got a little dark cloud forming over her head because she realizes it's just horrendous. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit more serious and in trouble, because with all these guys hanging around, they are going to come up with their own little ideas. They're getting a little bit bored. And so basically they're like, well, you know, the Hulk's a menace, right? And it says, it's our duty as superheroes to capture him. Now, here's my plan. Say on. Tagak is all ears. Okay, next page. Now, of course, Hellcat, being the little flirt that she is, you know, she's like, oh, look, she's gone for the two most colorful guys there, Jack of Hearts and Captain Ultra. The poor colorist must have been working 6 hours on that damn panel alone.
I know.
Just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Okay. And so basically, the guys are like, you know, trying to outman each other. There's a lot of testosterone going right there. And so things are going to get a little bit messy. And so, you know, Hellcat's like, well, you know, calm down, guys. And I just love the fact, look at them screaming at each other like this. That does it, jerk of hearts. Stop waving that fist, fella. Okay, and not realizing that the rest of the team are now just running around with horses. This is an utter chaotic issue. As you can see, there has been nothing significant. There is no main villain. There is no plot that they're designing. It is just complete chaos. I just love it. Next page. So, as you can see, with Marvel Man, Nova, and White Tiger riding the horses, just riding over everyone, you know, and then the Hulk's like, Hulk doesn't like so many heroes. Hulk would smash, but Sword Girl says no. Hulk isn't sure what to do, so he's just sitting there. And by the way, that's a classic Sal Buscema. Look at the Hulk right there. He's just, you know, he's grimacing right there with his little jaw right there. Okay, and then all of a sudden, okay, everybody, let's get him. Okay, and there, I don't know. I mean, Tagak, what are you doing? I don't even know what the hell do you think you're doing. None of those guys there have the power to take on the Hulk. But look, they're going to give it a try. Although, as John knows, Polaris was able to defeat the Hulk before in issue 150. So that's the end of that first issue. It's just so much fun. The highlight for me, of course, is the coffee drinking experience. And the fact that I get to see Marvel Man and Nova in the same panels. Just wonderful. It shows the beautiful skill that David Kraft has. And let's not forget the magnificent skill of Sal Buscema's pencils here. Okay, he's drawing hundreds and thousands of, like, you know, sequences and characters here. It's just magnificent. So that's issue 62.
I love at the bottom there. Next, sheer Hulkocost.
I went nuts when I was a kid with that.
So, of course, as we have discovered, poor John had to wait a long time, years, before he gets this. All defenders and you slug it out to the finish in the Tournament of Heroes. Okay, now, if you're a fan like I am of multiple characters and knowing who, what, why, and where, this is a dream come true for any Marvel fan. You're getting all these characters in one issue, okay? Some of these characters, just do not appear anywhere else. So, on the splash page right here, and by the way, the inker is Jim Mooney. He's doing a great job on Sal. Jim Mooney is a heavier type style inker. And, sometimes Sal, his work was very fast. And if you didn't have a heavy line, it could get lost. But Jim Mooney's doing a great job right here. And by the way, so as you can see, the Hulk is basically, doing nothing. Okay. He's a member of the Defenders, but these brand new Defenders have decided that he's a criminal and he's wanted and he is going to be captured. Next page. Now, Black Goliath, he's a tough guy, but no. He doesn't realize that he's in trouble. But he says, good going, Torpedo, Hulk's down. Torpedo's firing a little blast right there. And just in case you're realizing is that that is the same Torpedo that dies in ROM 50, for those of you who are keeping notice. Now, that's a pretty good job. He's getting caught between Torpedo's blast and also Havoc's blast right there. The Hulk's doing a good job. But while the Hulk is having his own little fight, Nighthawk still has not been able to capture the Falcon, And it says, just wait till I get my hands on you, Falcon. And Falcon's like, forget your petty anger, Nighthawk. We must not fight amongst ourselves. And again, now we're getting the Hulk. He's starting to get a little bit, pissed right here. Hulk has had enough. Do you hear? Enough. All right. And then if the issue's not even more complicated, boom, here comes little Iron Man. Okay, so Iron Man's coming along because he wants to give a little message. Next page. So he lands there and he goes, sorry to interrupt your membership bash, folks, but I got some bad news. First, though, here's a letter for you, Hellcat. It's been lying around Avengers Mansion for quite a while. See, this great little continuity that, that goes on at the Marvel at the time. Gosh, Iron Man, thanks. Thou hast ill tidings? The way Hercules speaks is just magnificent. And then so Iron Man now says, and this is a very important panel right here. I'm afraid so. Because of the Defenders TV documentary last night, Valkyrie hordes of supervillains have declared themselves to be Defenders. Manhattan is a mess. Holy smoke, that sounds serious, Shellhead. And then, of course, Valkyrie, always the serious one, is like, it's our responsibility to restore order. And then Hercules says, first, methinks we must restore order to our own ranks. Now, I have always loved this. He just picks up that massive tree and just like, rock, okay? He doesn't shout. He doesn't say stop. It's like, this is the way Hercules stops people from having a fight. Next page. So as you can see, they're all over the place. And they're like, Nighthawk's on the tree right there, okay? And it says, cease this simple-minded quarreling amongst thyselves, There be greater dangers deserving of thy attentions, false defenders at large in the city. God, I just love the dialogue of this era is just fantastic, right?
So good, so good.
And it says, hearken to the words of Hercules forthwith. Like someone's like, oh, what a windbag. So by this time, after being attacked, and then, Hercules is calling for order. The Hulk's had enough. And boom! Off he leaps, and by the way, I used to love the way he would leap off like that. And Hercules basically, zounds, the brute is as ill-tempered a lout as ever. And see, now take a look at the little footnote there. And it says, Hulk and Herc first tangled in Tales to Astonish 79. That simple thing right there is a lost art. Because now you'd be thinking, oh, they had a fight before? Well, next time I go to the comic shop, I'm going to see if they have that issue. It's just a simple thing, but it has a lot of power. And they don't do that anymore because they consider that you know, trite. All right, next page. So Valkyrie, of course, is also a natural leader. So basically, she's going to decide and help formulate all these characters into certain teams. So he says, one thing yet remains, ere we depart, defenders, we must divide into teams, the better to scout all of Manhattan Island. We have sufficient numbers for 3 such teams, you know. And then, of course, Hercules is like, you know, your idea has merit. So they're going to separate into their 3 separate teams. Next page. And then this is where the first 3 leave. So Captain Marvel has seen enough to know the defenders are not for me. And he's basically going to pack off and go. When it comes to Captain Marvel, it's not he hasn't got many appearances actually left. This is 1977. He doesn't, you know, after 1982, he's not here anymore. So this is again a rare appearance. Now, Miss Marvel, I think her next appearance is in Avengers 181, another issue with lots of characters, and Paladin isn't seen for years, not until like Marvel Team Up 108 in the 1980s. Paladin was supposed to be this, you know, big character, came along, sort of fizzled, and no one really knew what to do with him, so he sort of didn't do too much after this. So off they go. And then Hercules is like, Hercules hungers for well-met conflict. Let us all be gone. And so off they start going. Next page. You know, and it says here, horses hardly seem suited for transportation. Is this world? How else? Leave it to me, Herc. Okay, and this is like the funny side of Hellcat at this time. Again, you know, she's like, hop on the Hellcat-mobile, gang. Ah, dear. Again, look at that. It's beautiful. On her team right there, you know, you got Black Goliath, White Tiger, Hercules, Iron Fist, and then Captain Ultra. And they're going to go off. So they're all going off, and they're going to have to find out, who are these villains? Who are these villains that are calling themselves defenders? Next page. So as they're going along, as you can see, the people who can fly are flying. Again, I just love that panel right there. Nova and Marvel Man just flying together like that. I know a lot of people are like, well, it's okay. It's just, you don't understand. For someone like me, it's just like, oh my God, my 2 favorites in the same panel. And it basically never really happens again. You would think that they would be operating more in the same cosmic circles, but they didn't. Okay, next page. So basically, they're getting closer and closer to what, you know, what the action is. And Nighthawk, if you were to read all of this dialogue, Nighthawk is trying his best. He's trying his best to control this whole thing and become the leader of this massive team of so-called defenders. Okay, and he's slowly but surely getting more and more angry. Next page. So basically, the first thing they are trying to attack here is some poor kid that's not really doing anything wrong. And I love that panel there. He goes, well, there goes my allowance. This is all your fault for interfering. What? He goes, who needs you? Okay, so this isn't going too well. Okay, and I love this. Look at Nova. Of all the ungrateful. And he goes, that does it, mister. Maybe you'd like Silvers to do some work, custom body work on that precious Bugsy with our fists. Okay, this isn't good. The Avengers would never act like this. Nighthawk is being pushed to the limit right here, and he's beginning to snap a little bit. All right, next page. Oh, all right. So now we have another interlude. Okay, and of course that is Sergei the Presence, and that basically is the radioactive creature that he created many years ago. And of course, this is in a little spot in Siberia, and basically he's going to try and, you know, defeat this or eradicate this threat, not only to Russia but to the entire world. Next page. And so basically, you know, I mean, he's an extremely powerful character. I've always loved Sergei the Presence, but he's not powerful enough right now, and he gets, you know, absorbed by this being. Next page. So now we're going back to the action. Now Now we're going to see some of the villains that have decided to become defenders. So those of you who know your stuff, if you take that third panel, beginning from left to right, you see Porcupine there with a little bag over his shoulder. There's Whirlwind, okay, with another little bag. There's the Beetle. He's got a bag, okay? Now, some of you may not know of Sagittarius, okay, from the Zodiac. But that's not the original Zodiac. That is the Sagittarius LMD, okay, for those of you who are taking notes. The life model decoy, okay? It's not the original Sagittarius. I know we're getting very complicated right now, but just for those of you who want to take this issue and do some super hard research, okay, I'm going to let you carry on with that. And of course, then there's the Blob.
Love the Blob. Love.
You know, again, when I read this, I was like, oh, man, I want the Hulk to fight the Blob, but the Hulk ran off. Okay.
Yeah. I said the same thing. I love that too. The same freaking thing. Oh. I said the same thing.
Yeah, it is pretty funny, right? So basically, the Blob basically last appeared in the Champions. Okay, if anyone remembers the series, The Champions, he basically appeared in the last issue. And then, of course, the Porcupine and the Whirlwind also appeared in Marvel Team Up like issue 71. Okay, next page. So here we go. We're going to get some action right now. And suddenly, there's another hero, a villain that we popped up. If you look down there just below the Beetle, there's Batroc the Leaper right there. And it's like, oh, okay, there we are. So as the action's going on, we're seeing, you know, a couple more villains right away. Oh, that's a great fight right there. White Tiger against Batroc. That's such a great fight because both of them are hand-to-hand experts right there. Now, of course, Black Goliath, or Bill Foster, remember, guys, he's a scientist that just went big. He's not really the best fighter in the world. You know, I can imagine some people screaming right now, like, I love Black Goliath. Okay, he's having a little bit of trouble with Whirlwind right here. Next page. Now, again, Hellcat has very little training. She had a little bit of training with Moondragon or whatever it is, but look, she's just diving right into the action. And all of a sudden, there's another villain that's involved in this. You know, Electro. It's like, where in the hell did he pop up from? Okay. And if I'm correct, his last appearance before this was in Captain America 187, if you remember that issue. Now, there you go. Now, Hercules is having a good go at the Blob right there. He's giving him a good punch, and he says, wonder beyond wonders, thy girth resists the blow that felled mighty Atlas himself. And he goes, if that was your Sunday punch, you don't stand a chance against the Blob. Okay, so this is a real good thing. You know, these characters, you know, they don't usually meet. And by the way, I've always loved the Beetle. Okay, next page. So now the police are coming along because the lower Manhattan is just a complete mess. Okay, so they come along and the police are like, all right, stop what's going on right here. And then Hercules is going to step forward as his role as the leader of this new team. I am Hercules, leader of the legendary defenders. You are in the midst of subduing yon thieves. The better to return these precious gemstones to their rightful owners. Thou art just in time to take charge of these base villains. Next page. All right. So basically, the villains are going to be very clever right now because they're basically saying to the policemen, hey, wait a minute, we're defenders. We're members of the defenders. We don't know what's going along. Okay. And the policeman doesn't know who's what and who's what, you know, whatever it is. So basically, he starts screaming and he says, you're all under arrest. Okay, all these villains, all these characters, and that brings an end to issue 64. Okay, so as you can see, David Kraft is weaving a fantastic story with all of these characters. He obviously knows all the mannerisms of all the different characters. He knew that, you know, if he were here right now, I would be asking him, you know, what was his formula for choosing each of the characters? You know, we'll never know that, unfortunately. But as you can see, there's a tremendous amount of characters here. And Tagak does not appear again after this, does not appear at all. And some of these characters, you know, very small, different appearances. For someone like me who loved the majesty and all the magnificent different characters of the Marvel Universe, to see them all here in unison, moving around, doing their stuff, was just a wonder. It's one of my favorite things. And for a while there, whenever I'd go into a comic shop or a show, I would always pick up the issue again and again and again and again until I had like 10 or 15 copies of each of these issues. You know, and you know, I only stopped a couple of years ago because like Steve stopped buying these issues. I have as many as I need. You know, but whenever I'm trying to push people on certain stories that are just sheer fun, okay, there's no dread menace. There is no serious dark melodrama in this issue, okay? And this is also something that falls in line with David's run on the Defenders. More of a lighter approach, not quite as dark as the of Gerber. Gerber got a little bit dark there. There's some dark stuff that Gerber was doing. So for the sheer fun of it, okay, this issue, these two issues are fantastic. Of course, the fight continues in issue 64, and in issue 65, there's a small little sequence. So maybe at a later date, we will go into the conclusion of this story, but please feel free to go ahead, investigate, see if you can find out where these characters appeared before, where did they appear before in certain things. It's very difficult to work out the continuities. That's what's going on. So, John, how's that for a refresh going down memory lane right there?
Okay, we have so many parallels here, I have to say. Number one, the same thing. I saw all these different heroes you never really saw before all together, and all I'm thinking of, the Hulk can fight that one, then that one, then that. Like, you know, that's how my brain worked with all this shit. But I want you to understand something. This is something somebody might not know. Just think, literally 75% of all those characters are Roy's characters. Just about all of them. I mean, it's crazy. Oh, yeah, sure, there's a few that aren't, but if that's Roy did so many secondary characters, and so many of them there, from Quasar to like, he worked on Hellcat, obviously, but you know, Valkyrie, Nighthawk, but so many of those characters. Stingray was there. Like, I'm just saying, I love the fact that so many of his characters and those secondary, Power Man and Iron Fist, obviously on the cover. But I'm just saying, like. And I thought about that. But there was a little mistake there, just so you know, Steve, because the John Cimino brain knows how many times Hercules and the Hulk fought. They first met in Tales to Astonish 79, but they fought a year earlier, and that was a mistake that they put there. It was actually Champions number 16 from 1977 when they fight Magneto, and Magneto sends in the Hulk, and him and Hercules fight each other. So there was a little editorial mistake there, that just so you know, because he fought him the year earlier.
Yes, yes, because that's a very significant story unto itself, which we may get into at some point, which crosses over with Supervillain Team Up 14.
Yes. Oh God. Yes. Yeah. With the Doctor Doom, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Once again, when I saw I love the Blob. There was so many things I loved. The coffee thing is what I remembered when I was a kid looking at that. And obviously, me being a Hulk fanatic, that last panel, Hulkocost, you know, like what you were saying now, you love the ending there.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, what is going to happen next? You know, when I looked at that issue, that was at the time that I didn't know the numbers meant anything. I just looked at the last panel, and then with the name, I used to like go into the other stories and look. So I went through all my brother's comics. Like, he had only a few of the Defenders, I remember, but they didn't match up. So it took me years to see that ending. And I was so happy when I got to see it. And then, yes, I wanted the Hulk to fight the Blob, but I was intrigued by Hercules fighting the Blob too. That kind of, because I never saw that before. So yes, it brought so many heroes, so much fun. And I gotta just say, the storytelling on that page where Jack of Hearts and Captain Ultra, they're yelling at each other, and then behind them you see the Nighthawk flying after Falcon, and then you see the horses, and then the next page they get the horses like bash them out of the way and all that stuff. Yes, it was one of those fun issues that that was at a time when I was new, it was fresh, and it was fun. But
Yes.
it was fun, but everybody was exactly who they were. You know what I mean? Like they and Hercules with just the blowhard, and like his me and you, the same thing with his.
I mean, he takes over the charge of the defenders. It's like, buddy, Nighthawk's here. What are you doing?
Yeah, but his pseudo Shakespearean speech, I loved it.
Yeah.
But you forgot to say one thing. When Hercules drank the coffee, and in his thoughts, he says Zeus. It was so bad. And then you see Valkyrie with just the scribble.
Yes.
And here's the magic of comic books. Even as a little kid, I knew what that scribble meant, even though nobody ever taught me. She was pissed because the picture of her, like, that's what she's saying. And that little scribble of just, magic, the magic of comics. That's
she didn't
basically
realize that she had concocted the devil's brew.
And the devil couldn't even handle
it. Once again, Roy's character, the son of Satan, Havoc, they're just all there. And I truly love that, because why you loved it, you saw characters you never really saw before, but they had fun. And why wouldn't they go after the Hulk? Because the Hulk was a menace at that time. And see, this was the thing I loved about the Defenders. One, you got more Hulk. I love the fact you got more Hulk. But then you got his interactions with the world, because the Hulk was always a solo guy. But you had his interactions like in a different environment, and it was always refreshing for me to see. So, David Anthony Kraft, I loved his Defenders. Probably, oh my God, you remember I reviewed. If people can look to some of our earliest episodes, I reviewed the 50. That whole. Goes all the way up to 50 and all that stuff. Just the Defenders were.
You did the saga of Scorpio.
Yes, the saga of Scorpio, which was
magnificent.
Magnificent. But the Defenders were imperfect, and they were this mishmash group of outsiders that I just loved it. And the Hulk wasn't there. You had the Submariner there. You had all these temperament, and poor Nighthawk always trying his best. And I think the Defenders, not the Squadron Sinister or the Squadron Supreme, the Defenders made Nighthawk, because I got to really know Nighthawk through the Defenders. And then I went back, and then I discovered that he was in that other stuff, but it was always the Defenders for me, and you really got to see. And he always wanted to be a good team, and I loved his inner dialogue and his turmoil, because he tried so goddamn hard. It was hard to keep that crew together, because they were so independent.
Just driving him nuts.
Yeah,
and that dollar bill. I mean, that's just the icing on the cherry on the icing. $1 bill. Yeah. Oh my God.
Go ahead now. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm interested. Because I know you've never read those before.
Oh, well, I did read them after John sent them to me, and my first thought was, this is chaos. This is absolute chaos. I loved it, though, because it was, issue 62 there was it was fun, man. It was fun just seeing this, explosion at the front door just coming in, and I was like, oh, my God. And there were so many characters, though, that I wasn't fully familiar with. And it wasn't just listening to you right now that I realized, who all these characters are. But it was such a fun issue. 62 was fun. It was cool. Again, there wasn't too much crazy action, but just the whole complexity of what was just thrown at their doorstep was such a great read. And then going into issue 63, when they're finally like, okay, well, hey guys, guess what? The villains now are claiming they're Defenders too, and they're going wreaking havoc, in the city. And now they all have to band together somehow, push this chaos aside, get some organization going, and then go kick some ass. And the fact that now it ends with if you're saying you're this and you're saying you're that, well, guess what? You're all getting booked,
Yeah,
you know. But it leaves you. I would have to say, like, if I was alive at the time these books came out in the newsstands, I will say the writing is so good, the storyline is so complex with how many characters are in there that I would have to imagine after reading that you'd be drooling for the next issue to come out. And I would love to bet that anyone that watches this episode, like myself, who ended up acquiring, however I do it, acquiring the other issues, needs to, because you cannot be left at this. You can't be left with what we just presented tonight. And we're gonna have to. Well, you'll have to explain the other ones down the road. We'll do another issue.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get there. But I can guarantee you that anyone who's watching this right now, if they can't find it online, they're gonna go to their shop and they're gonna look through the Defender section and go, I need 64 and 65. God's sake, Steve, you killed me.
I want to say one other thing about the Hulk I loved in this. Not just did you see the Hulk interact with people, because the Hulk's comics were a little depressing, because, you know, he was this tortured soul. But you got to see a little softer side. When would you have ever think the Hulk would have been like serving coffee? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I love that panel.
That's what I'm saying. And Hulk is just like, drink it black, you know, like, you know,
yes.
He's already annoyed he has to serve it.
Right. And in the Defenders is where he got his you know, like, you know, the whole thing with the beans thing. Obviously it started in Hulk 182. The 182, that was the first time he ever tried beans, but I like how they apply, you know, when he buys all this beans and everybody's got to eat beans at the table. I mean, it's just like the Defenders brought a more family aspect or a softer side of the Hulk you never really saw in his own issue. And that's, once again, was refreshing to me too. Seeing like, oh my God, like I totally remember, like I said, that issue, the number 62, is so drilled in my head because I looked at it so many times and I always was dying for that next issue. But the whole coffee scene was great, and Hercules. But I mean, it's an innocence with great storytelling, but like that's comic 101. It doesn't always have to be. It doesn't always have to be like this hard-edged stuff. It doesn't have to always be taken serious. And if you put these characters in that element, you can get a good story because you just let them be who they are and see how they how the plant grows between them. It's fantastic.
Definitely.
And just in case, that there is a list of all the characters before and after appearances. So there's a Maniac, okay, right here in Las Vegas. Okay, and just to give you an example, when it comes to let's see, let me choose a character which was pretty tough. Captain Marvel, before this issue, appears in Thor 271. Then he appears in a flashback in Avengers 227. Then in Defenders 63, and then finally he appears in a flashback from 2005 in Miss Marvel Volume 2, number 35. So even in 2005, someone did a flashback that takes place just after that issue. So just goes to show you that's how complex things are. And it takes a maniac like me to go and find out these before and after appearances.
The Rain Man of continuity.
And now I just want to throw something at Steve. When Steve said Polaris and the Havoc and the Hulk 150. Wait, there was a little... It was Havoc that was shooting into his brain when he ripped up that mountain. That was Roy Thomas. That was Roy Thomas right there, right? That was Roy's. That was Roy's story.
I can guarantee that. You know, when Roy sees this episode and he sees all of his characters, you know, because I don't know if Roy has ever read this issue, but I'm sure that he's going to go, "God's sakes! Look at all my characters running around there." You know, and I'm actually really looking. In actual fact, John, you had to tell me, okay, as soon as he sees this episode, I want to know what he says. Okay.
But I love that because he was intrigued by Polaris because she had the green hair, right?
Yes.
That was awesome. So that's
true.
So I saw you know where I saw that issue? Because remember it was in one of those treasuries. I remember remember that issue. Yes. That's where I saw that. So when I saw this issue, you know what I thought? Oh, we can get back at Havoc in this one. That's what I thought. Like, oh, let him get back. Because you never saw him with Havoc. What the hell was Havoc doing there? They were just showing up. It was fantastic. But it
Yes.
brought out all those things in me, the wonderment, the wonder. That's the magic of comics, because where the dreams happened in my mind. It's when I read these things and it was like they meant so much because it was fresh and it wasn't overdone too. And they all acted like who they were supposed to. Like they weren't out of character. They were all in. David Findo, he made a fine web there. He was so good. And when I talked to just really quick, when I talked to David, I talked to him a lot, and he loved Roy. Obviously, he was Roy's the one who hired him, but he was so appreciative of me when I told him that the issue 50. I ranked his Defenders as good as anybody on planet Earth. Just that run is one of the ultimate runs all the way to issue 50. And he was so thankful. He contacted me and he was so thankful for that. Like I loved that. And it made me feel so happy because David, like, he's very underrated. He's one of those underrated guys, doesn't get the respect he deserves. And I love when you read these things, you can see how fun he was having a good time with these guys. And you can tell he was having fun. How can you not?
Oh, my word. I lost art. Thank you, David. I send all my good thoughts up to you. And you can bet your bottom dollar if you were here, you'd be right there in the little box. And we would all be having a great laugh with you. But the good thing is that your material is here. It's gonna survive forever. And with this podcast, new people are going to be exposed to this issue. And right now, after this is shown, issue 64 and 65 are going to be disappearing from comic shops and also online. You can guarantee it.
All right, Steve. As the Prowler is up there on the roof with the Falcon just hanging out, what do we say?
Boom!
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on Pop XP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the Pop XP and over on Instagram at the Pop XP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.